Hey Truls, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everything
I'm
going?
very
You're in the office, I see.
yeah. I'm in my office in Oslo, in kind of the Soho area of Oslo. It's a bit of a I don't know. November is a bit of a dark month in Norway when you're this far up north.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's very good.
And has it started snowing yet? Is it kind of
Now, well,
that
it
season
started
already?
in, yeah, it has at the peak. So if you're kind of, if you're willing to walk a bit and are in the right places in Norway, for sure you can already start to do some rando and hiking now. But
Nice.
the snow usually comes in kind of late November-ish when it starts here in Norway. And before when it goes from summer to winter, that's when you have kind of the transition in Norway. It's a bit dark as you're that far up north, but
Yeah.
both the summer and the winter is amazing. So
Nice. And are you getting some time to like when the snow does hit, you can get away and go snowboarding and
yeah, well, not as much as I used to, but that's not because of the work. That's because you have small children.
yeah. Yeah, I
So
know that feeling.
that's the reason for that. But actually, we decided to live right next to a ski resort. That's a bit of a unique thing with Oslo, that you have a ski resort in the city.
Oh
So
wow, I didn't know
actually,
that.
from my apartment, or my house, you can actually just ski out and then go straight to the Tryvann, which is the ski center. So I think this is one of the only capitals in the world where you take the metro all the way up to the ski hill. So you take the metro and then either walk for like 10 minutes or take just a small bus ride, and then you're in a pretty nice ski resort actually.
That's amazing. Now, how long does it take to get into if you want to then go from the ski resort into town?
30 minutes,
That's sick.
and then you're in
Nice.
downtown, like in yeah. So that's a pretty nice thing about Oslo for sure.
That's cool. So I'm in Lisbon. We definitely don't have that. It's sort of is it about
You
four
can walk
hours
to the surf
away?
though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's the equivalent for surfing. So you can kind of
Yeah,
you can surf in the
yeah,
morning and then kind of go to work and 30 minutes and you're in the capital and yeah, it's
yeah.
cool.
No, we have to drive for like, well, we have some small secret spots that's closer to Oslo, but if you're gonna go to like the normal spots, it's like 8 hour drive. So I
Okay.
guess we kind of the other way around.
Yeah. And then you've got to be pretty keen. I mean, would people still go in the winter?
Yeah,
Would
yeah, the winter surf in
they
Norway.
do?
Yeah, that's the best. That's the best time because you have like the Atlantic coming straight in with the winter storms. So if you're gonna surf in Norway, then if you want the best surf, then you surf in winter actually. And also because of the Gulf Stream, the water is quite okay, and it's
Okay.
the temperature is not that bad, and you sit there and it's all these blisters coming in and there's winter storms and you have these big fjords on the side and there's this crazy weather, and then you sit there and surf. It's a quite unique experience actually.
Amazing. Yeah, I was growing up over in the UK in London, and we got up to like the North Sea, kind of like north
Yeah,
on the east coast, and whenever that was good, I could imagine it like in Norway with like
yeah,
those swells coming in.
yeah.
But
It can become quite huge actually in Norway as well. So it's a cool, and we have one of the biggest coastlines in the world. So of course there are spots.
yeah, nice one, cool. Well, I'd love to kind of get into DB, but before that, if that's all right with you, like to talk about I guess the journey of how it all kind of before it began, and like because you were pretty sporty growing up, right? I mean, you were kind of into. Would you say you like
Uh,
playing sports in high school and
Yeah, well, like that's always been my arena. That has been sports. That has always been my passion as well, especially snowboarding. So I'm born in '84, so I'm 38 now. So I actually managed to be part of that culture growing up,
yeah?
and also the community evolving. So that was a huge part of my identity. So when it comes to kind of the company, I think if you look back at being an entrepreneur, it's you can connect all the dots almost all the way to your childhood. And for me as well, this company is a result of a lot of the knowledge that you got growing up, being a part of a snowboarding community coming to
Mhm.
Europe and especially Norway at that time. So yeah, I think a lot of that is actually embedded into the company, to be quite honest.
Okay, and like when you first started snowboarding, was that sort of like around like kind of mid-90s time then, or?
Yeah, approximately, I would say late 90s. I got to borrow a board from the son of a family friend. So he had one. He was a Burton Air 165, so it was longer than me at that point. And I was using his boots as well, and went up to the local ski resort. Of course, nobody know how to even take the lift at that time, so you had to figure that out yourself. The board was so heavy, and we didn't use helmet at that time. So I remember, I think I had must have had 10 heel, like catching the edge on the first day there, and was only ice. So, but I was super stoked, probably with a concussion that first day as well, but so stoked about this new sport and kind of the thing that was around it, and the rebellion around it, that no one else was doing it. So I got really drawn into that. And then I remember managing to buy one of the first boards that came into the local sports shop. And then starting to go to Trysil, which is one of the biggest ski resorts in Norway. So when I didn't do other sports or school, I basically grew up in the ski resort in Trysil in Norway, going up there with a bus every weekend. And then in the beginning, just buying a one pass up, and then just hiking the park the full day. And then later on getting the season pass, and then so that was my youth basically.
Amazing. And were you skiing before that, or did you just go straight into snowboarding?
I got straight into snowboarding. I think I tried skiing a couple of times, and now I do both. I really enjoy both skiing and snowboarding. But actually, snowboarding was the first thing for me. I didn't start skiing before I was at university actually. When I came back after 1 year in the US, and then I was snowboarding more or less three to four times days a week. So I kind of hit my peak of level, and coming back then to Norway, didn't manage to progress as much. And for me personally, it's always about learning and evolving. So I thought, let's try this twin tip thing that is coming out, where people are starting to write can I take this snowboarding thing to skis? And then I got the full dopamine rush again. Just I remember the first time riding switch on skis, and I'm like, oh, this is sick. And I got the same rush or adrenaline of that as doing a trick on a big jump. So then I started to take those tricks to skis, and it was the learning process all over again. And that was, just amazing. So after that, I started to do both actually.
Okay. And then, when you were you studying, was that when you went to university, were you in Norway at the time then, or what was?
Well, this is the first time I started in university was actually I went to the US. I got this amazing scholarship here in Norway, and I got to go to Utah, which I of course always read about the Utah snow. And so I went over there and got this super nice scholarship. So they paid for my flight, my tuition, my housing, and everything. And I basically stacked all my classes into 2 or 3 days during the winter semester, so I could snowboard all the other days. So I had a season pass at Park City, the canyons, and went all up the valley, right? And so that was amazing. And then also that was when I first got to know about entrepreneurship, because since being on this scholarship, they managed to put me in a lot of these classes that you need a lot of prerequisites to get into. But you manage to navigate that when you're on these scholarships. So I managed to take one of the entrepreneur classes there in the US, and there I met the founder of Gold Sims and Ken Graf and Northwest Airlines and stuff like that. And that really sparked something with me, that I understood that, my passion for doing stuff or building stuff, that is actually also a job. So I think kind of in my entrepreneurial kind of understanding that this is something I could do for a living started back then. But so that was my year in the US, and I think it's good for Europeans to live in the US and get a bit of that university mindset, I think. So that was a part of my story.
Yeah. And were you was this when you were 18 when you went, or were you pretty young? Okay.
Yeah, I was 18, 19 when I lived in the US. So after you finished high school in Norway. So so it kind of you can be formed at that age. These experiences have a big impact on your rest of your life, and it was the same for me as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. And were you kind of were your parents, were they entrepreneurial too, would you say, or like?
No, no. My both my parents are teachers. My
Okay.
mom is, what can be the English word there? Like, working with people who have reading and writing disorders and stuff like that, and helping people who have, problem expressing themselves. So special education within a teacher side. And my dad is a middle school teacher.
Okay.
So no, but I would say that my mom always especially inspired me to do stuff differently. When we were at theme parks and stuff like that, she was the first one who always went out of the biggest slides. And as a young kid watching that, it's like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
If she can, then I can. So I think some of my kind of curiosity for extreme sports and kind of challenging myself, either if that is school or whatever, comes from that side of my family for sure.
Yeah. And then it must have been like, so, and then being in the US and then being exposed to all that, and I guess new, like just different ideas, right? And different ways of thinking from what you kind of used to growing up with back home in Norway. And I remember going to Spain, and it was just like same sort of thing. I did a season, went to university in Granada in South Spain, and they've got a resort there, and I kind of, it just sounds like what you like, exactly what you said, like just stuck all the classes into like 2 days, and then I could just go snowboarding for the rest of the week.
That's the way to do
but
it.
yeah, you're just picking up all these things without even kind of, I guess at the time, realizing that it's happening, right?
Yeah, I would say so. It really widens your horizon, and I think that's a part of it as well. Kind of understanding, the world is bigger than what you believe, and every time you go on a journey and you kind of get new experiences and understand that there's other opportunities out there, and you just need to combine these pieces and puzzles in different ways. So I think it definitely helped me on that for sure.
And what did you do after university?
Well, first, actually that part in the US was only 1 year.
Okay.
So then I went there and I was like, oh, this is so cool. So if I continue here, I'm going to become an American and stay in the US. And I'm a big fan of Norway. I really love the nature here, and also I love my family and wanted to build my network here. So I went back to Norway actually to continue studying. But I needed to do it in Norway or Europe just to ensure that I didn't build my full network in the US, because then I knew that I would stay there forever. So I went back and I played 1 year actually professional sports, and then of course snowboarding and skiing on the side before then going to the university in Norway, the Technical University of Science and Technology, and that's kind of where my journey into this company started. So I did.
What did you play professionally? What was that?
Team handball. This European sport, which is it's really big in Central Europe and here in Scandinavia. But I think also, like, looking back, that was my education in leadership, actually, in team understanding, and kind of how does a well-functioning team work together? What does it take? Because everything you do on a handball court is, you don't win matches by being like a super strong single player. You win matches by playing as a team. I kind of, I don't know, it's a bit specific for this sport, but I used to play on the side. So, I was one of the first one going up in front, being a fast runner, and always my goals was a result of the defense doing a great job in, like, blocking the making the shot come in one corner so that the goalkeeper could be in exactly that corner. And when I got the cue that he can't push that ball to the next player, then I went up. So, and then the keeper played. So it actually was a result of many people working together, and that led to the goals that I made. And so for me, that was kind of, when building a business, I've drawn a lot of learning from the team mentality, because I understood at an early age that it's all about the team and culture. If you have if you have good people, and those people have a good culture between them, then you will have a good team, and that will give performance of whatever you're doing, if it's sport or business. So I think actually sports in that time, the teaching that I took from that, and also kind of the managing high stress situations, I think those have been one of the most important leadership learnings that I've taken into building a business, to be quite honest.
Yeah, there's a lot of high stress. a lot
Yeah,
of high
well,
stress
it
when you're
is.
running a business, right?
Yeah, I think you need to know how to handle your stress level, or else you'll burn out quite quickly.
Yeah.
Like I burned out either way, so it didn't help fully, but at least it probably managed me to save for some longer time. So, but I can come back to that.
and then after that, so did you kind of take some time off after university, or did you start working, or?
Yeah, well, I then went into the university and I did 3 years of mechanical engineering. And after 3 years, that is a lot of math and physics and all this theoretical courses. And even though I love astrophysics and all that kind of stuff, I'm also a creative person. So after 3 years, I saw that okay, I don't get to use my right brain as much as I want to. It's like only left brain work. So I found out that I could take this split master within entrepreneurship. So you basically keep your technology master, but then you add on split it with a business master within entrepreneurship.
Okay.
So I wanted to do that, and then I knew that before that was after 3 years of the university, because it's a 5-year master. I needed to get some more energy and some perspective, so I didn't kind of miss on those last 2 years as well, and understanding what I wanted to do. So then I took a year off, and that's when this journey kind of who led this company started.
Okay.
So I started in South America. We went first to Bolivia and then to La Paz, where I had some friends working in a volunteer program. So we joined that for a couple of weeks only, but it was a vaccination program, and working with one of the poorest cities in South America with vaccination, it really gives some perspective for a person growing up in Scandinavia mainly, because we're extremely well protected here in this region of the world. So to basically get some perspective there and see kind of what is important, like what do kids in this area, what makes them smile, and those fundamental insights, and that you can bring into business as well. Like it's important that people are feel meaningful and that they have joy in their work. So and then I climbed some high mountains in the Andes, so managed to tick off my 6,000 meter mark that I always wanted. And then the last part of that year was just surfing, because growing up with snowboarding as my main passion, I always been inspired by surf culture, and I wanted to learn what is this sport all about, because I haven't done that much here in Norway. So then it was like up the West Coast, and then into the Central Americas, the Caribbean, the North America, and then I flew over to New Zealand and Australia before coming back to Norway, and then traveling with a surfboard then for 6 months, and having quite a lot of both bus drives and trains and flights. And the amount of ding repairs I was doing during that time was just insane. And I as an engineer and equipment geek, I was looking at all these different bags, and they didn't really provide the protection that you need for such a fragile object, and that means so much for us. So that was kind of something I thought about the entire time. And then I went back to Norway and stopped by Holdevika, which is one of these surf spots where you have the fjords straight in, and you have the Atlantic coming straight on you. So the next thing you'll meet there is Greenland or the US. So I stopped there for 1 week of surf before going back to university, and that's when I met my co-founder Jon. So we were lying in the surf there, and we started to talk about the journey that I've been on, and him living in a bag, being a professional skier, and why isn't there a product or a brand that actually make this type of lifestyle better, both in terms of functionality for actually traveling with equipment, but also for the way that it looks. Because being Scandinavian, both of us, and fairly interested in design in general, we thought that everything looked, it was so many colors and it was so sporty. Like, why couldn't it look like something that you would wear? It doesn't have to look like you're going to go on a, I don't know, on a circus in some sense. Like you can look clean with like normal clothes. You don't have to have on your,
it could be stylish, right?
Always. Yeah, it could be stylish. It could be Scandinavian design.
So
how can you bring Scandinavian design into this thing? And also we saw other things, and that was Jon was one of the first Red Bull athletes in this region of Europe, and we kind of saw how, social media marketing worked and how, ambassador marketing worked. Even though at that point, this was in 2010, we met, there was only blogs and YouTube. It wasn't any, Instagram or TikTok or anything like that. But we seeing how the snowboarding industry had grown and watching Red Bull, watching GoPro, we kind of understood how this worked inherently. So we wanted to see how could you build a brand with this, this way of thinking. And then lastly, I'm a dyslexic, so I actually got a laptop very early at school. Okay. And because I read very slowly, and that's not the way for me to learn. So I had to find other ways. So I think when I got this laptop, I understood that with this tool, I can do so much that, I can efficient all these processes. I can find information so fast, I can learn. And this is just, this tool gives you superpowers. So I've always been a tech geek. So then the idea was as well, okay, how can we build a company on technology platforms that make it scalable? And this was the time when Magento was the only platform out there, Magento 1.0. But how could we do that and make an international brand quickly? So those insights were kind of what was important. And then I went back to the university. Me and Jan used because we were the core user, right? We've been traveling with gears for so many years. So we knew what we were looking for, but we also interviewed like a shitloads of people. Like I had 150 people that I talked to, both, skiers, snowboarders, surfers, and also retailers. Like, what do you need to sell this product? And I also was sitting out at the airport in Trondheim where I was studying and watching baggage handler. Like, how do they grab this thing? And then I was observing.
Sometimes you don't want to watch, right? You look out the plane window. Like, but what are you doing in my bag?
But you understand why stuff breaks when you look at them, right?
Yeah.
So if you talk to them and just I don't know, I had a lot of interviews with them, and they were like, yeah, it's because the handle isn't there. Like the handle, like there's no center of gravity here, and like you just need to grab something. So that was like a key insight. Okay, so what if I do like this, this, and this? Like, it's perfect. Then they started to just lift this product like gently up and put it down. And I was watching like, okay, that's insane. This one thing you throw, and this thing you just take up like it's made of, I don't know, porcelain or something, just because it was ergonomically good for them. So we did all these studies, and then I had my mom's sewing machine in the dorm room. So I started to work on a prototype, and that was then based on this insight that we had, like make it length adjustable, make it compressible, make it lighter, give it much more protection. And started to build a prototype on that, and that worked. So it kind of was a proof of concept.
Have you ever? Was that the first time that you sewed, or did you have any experience? Kind of.
Well, I learned myself. Yeah,
okay.
I always like to make stuff, and my mom has always like involved me. So I remember I was, at the party in Christmas one time. So I was sitting and then wanted to stitch something, and I took the needle straight through my thumb. And I remember my mom, like, she said I shouldn't do this alone and play with her equipment. So I remember just taking it out, so it came out of the thumb again, not telling her. But so I always had an interest for making stuff, and either if that was with a sewing machine, or if it was trying to put things together, especially taking things apart, electronics apart, was super fun. So I don't know, a bit of a strange personality there. I love extreme sports. I love astrophysics. I love to make stuff. So kind of a bit of a different spectrum there of stuff of my interest. Yeah.
And then it all kind of came together, and then like so then with that prototype, like what was the kind of the idea? Were you thinking like was it skis or was it surfing?
Yeah. No, the first one was skis and snowboards, with especially for skis, the very first one, and the idea was there that both me and Jan had a network there, right? So we could ensure that this got the attention, because that's one of the hardest things starting a brand, is to ensure that it actually has some traction in the beginning, because your cash flow is usually not that long, and your runway. So you need to play on what you have, right? And for us, skiing was a natural start, but of course there was. Before getting to that point, there was a lot of finding production and all this side of it, which was quite challenging as well, being young and unexperienced.
Yeah, and were you like sourcing it, like all the things locally, or how did you?
No. When I had a first prototype, and we all agreed that this was something that was, looked good, then I traveled down to China.
Okay.
So I used my network to find like a lot of different factories first, and then coming down there as I was in my mid-20s then. It was actually really hard because they want to see, uh, unfortunately, a guy in their 60s usually to come in as kind of the CEO, when we want to work with you, and you eat first and you do all this stuff. But when you come in as quite young, you need to earn your place there, and also you find out that I remember when I was doing my research to build kind of the factory list that I wanted to visit, one of the I had a GM coming to me like, yeah, you can come and visit my factory. It's at this and this address, right? And then I talked to another guy. Yeah, you can come and visit my factory. It's at this and this address, and the address was the same, right? So they were just selling in the same factory, but none of them
Yeah.
actually was the GM of that factory. So there was a lot of stuff to watch out for. But I ended up finding a factory that was half Norwegian owned, so I knew that their CSR was good. I knew that they,
Okay.
that they were following the production standards that I wanted to set already from like a very, very small production. So I
Hmm.
decided to work with them, even though they were quite expensive in the start. So I went down there, and also I managed to get a really nice connection with the management there, because when I came in, I knew then pattern making. I'd learned myself how to actually, you lay out a new product. It's just all these paper patterns that you cut all the stuff in, and then you draw in on these patterns where it's going to be what type of seam, where's the zipper going to start. It's going to be a bar tech, has a different sign, and so on and so forth. And I came in not with a prototype, but I came with my patterns to the sample maker. And in the sample maker room, one of the yeah, a really respected guy was working there as the chief, because he used to be in a family that owned a lot of big factories before the party took everything and made them governmental. So he
Hmm.
came from the past, from a very influential family within production. And even though he didn't speak a word English and I didn't speak a word Chinese, we bounded over talking about all these panels
Yeah.
that we both understood. So we could basically communicate through our craft. And he thought that was so cool because he hadn't seen anyone coming being that into the detail and talking that detailed about the product. So he was like, told the CEO that this guy you need to work with. And then we got the traction with the factory. So that was how it started. And I worked for years with him, and we had some really, really cool development projects together, just being totally focused and in the zone on a new product and just looking it. And then you need to visualize how it will look in 3D, right? Because you're only looking at papers.
Yeah.
So that was how I got in there. And then basically, I was lucky because my mom and dad had put aside, your child contribution that you get in Norway, because I'm the youngest of three kids and quite a lot younger. Um, so they were in different financial positions. They could actually put that away. And then I worked a lot over different summer jobs over the years. I had $25,000.
Yeah.
And those $25,000 were the first production that was ever made for this company, with a government grant on top of that, where they do this matching program. So managed to finance the first production, and and basically went then back when Jon made a YouTube movie of this, because then we only had sampled at this time, right? And he made a YouTube movie where he showed how this worked. And that, with Jon's channel and Jon's insight and his way of expressing everything and showing how this worked, the full community, of course, saw what we had made.
Yeah.
And we launched it on our website. It wasn't like a Kickstarter at that point. It hadn't come to Europe yet at this. So we made our own website, mydouchebag.com, and Jon, managed to market this and get it out so that people actually saw the product and understood what it was. And we launched it there on the 1st of January 2012. And within the first week, I think we sold to 12 different nations. And that was a really, really cool thing, because the products weren't coming before March. So that's 3 months later. So people were actually pre-ordering from a brand they never heard about, that launched a day ago,
Wow.
this product that they'd never seen. So that was a really, really cool feeling. So I remember then we went to ISPO as well. We got the brand new award. And we got even patents on the product, which is, you know, very unique in cut and sew, which is called. It's usually, you know, for electronics and stuff like that, but we actually had a technical patent for the first technology that makes this bag both compressible and the protection and the weight and everything.
Which is the roller bag, right? That's the
that actually we use the same technology within the surf bag. We use it in the ski bag and snowboard bag. We use it in a lot of our products. The base patent is actually very important for us, and it enables a lot of the product functionality. The final kind of end of that, call it proof of concept, that was when the product came. We were renting, or I got this place at 1.5 hours north of Oslo, where this it's called a næringshage. What's that in English? Like it's kind of a community workplace, I would say. But it was an old trade station where I managed to sit with a friend and get to use his basement of this community management co-working space kind of ish. And I went there one day. I didn't go there often, but I came there one day because I had this feeling, and then came there, and all the goods were there. Like there was like several pallets of the goods. And that was a day in March. I knew it was going to come around that time, but I didn't know that it was coming that day. So I'm super glad it was raining that day, to say it that way. And then, you know, carrying everything down into the basement, and then starting to go through every single product, because of course, when it's a first production batch, there's always something. And this time it was that, you know, our foam panel was too long, so the Velcro didn't shut. So I had to take off the Velcro, cut every foam panel to make it like, you know, maybe 5 cm shorter, and then close it up again. And then roll everything together, and then, you know, put on the label, and the mailman came at 4 o'clock every day. And that was kind of our international launch, where I think people thought we were like this big American company and sending products all over the world, but we were at that point like a couple of guys standing in a basement and putting on labels and shipping it out. So that was the start of kind of the proof of concept, that we knew that, okay, we have something, and now we can start to build structure around this company. So that was how it started, actually.
And how many of you was it at the beginning? So yourself, Jon?
It was myself and Jon in the beginning, and then it run as I run it under my single name company. I don't know if that's a thing in the US, but like a, you know, one person company. For actually a couple of years first. Up until this production batch that I just talked about. And in that time, I had a common student who joined me right after I was done. So a couple of years into the ride, called Ari Magnus. So we were at that point 3 people working at that. Me, Erling, and Jon were working at that time in that basement and shipping out.
Nice. And then after that batch, so would you say that was like kind of one of the sort of first turning points where you thought, okay, like we're on something here, it's gonna
Yeah, I think so. It was a proof of concept for sure. Like we really believed in it. We saw that the product, I mean, we talked to so many people, and they, you know, they've seen some videos on as we went. So we were quite confident that this was something. But of course, when you never built a company before, and I think that's a good part as well, you don't know how much complexity you will meet. So I think it was like, yes, this is going to work, and then you start to discover everything you need to do in order to actually build a business out of something like this. So of course, this was just, I would say this is just a proof of concept when you come to the stage that I'm currently talking about right now. A bit more than that, but then it also start very significant part of work after that, to say it that way.
Yeah, and then what was kind of the next stage after that that you were focusing on? Was it?
Yeah, well,
I mean, you're kind of balancing everything, right? You're kind of doing
that's the thing. I think that's one of the important parts in the beginning, is that you need to be able to do so much, right? Because you're only a few persons, and like for me as the founder and the one who kind of, you know, kept everything together, like, you know, all the different departments was living in our heads, and probably mainly in my head at that point. To ensure kind of that we had all the different aspects in. So we were a very small team. We were sitting and talking all the time. And you basically went around then to start to build, call it the MVP of marketing, like the most minimal viable product of marketing. And then you do the same for all different departments to make it work, right? Because you need some sort of, even though it's super simple, you need some sort of logistics, you need some sort of cash flow control, you need some sort of marketing, and so on and so forth. So we started to build kind of the minimal things of everything, very silo focused in the beginning, where kind of, okay, Jon, you do marketing, and like Erling, you do financial and sales and logistics, and Truls, you do product development and logistics and business development and all this kind of different areas. But it was kind of then walking around the different departments and starting to build them up one after one, basically. And that is kind of the, I would say, kind of the proto formation of our company, is kind of when you start to build these different departments of the company. And that was my work a lot, then, to kind of get a company up, or get an department up to a certain level, so that we can actually manage to handle the complexity and move around. But the first thing that we did actually was to get a 3PL, like outsourced warehouse, because there were 3 people then working at this point, because my girlfriend at the time also joined us. She was done with her school then, so we moved to Sogndal, which is this very remote place in Norway, where you have some of the best skiing in Norway, only touring though. So we moved there for a full season, and then sitting there working like 2 sessions a day, and then 1 session with skiing or snowboarding or splitboarding. So that was a really nice year as well, and it put a lot of them. I don't know, with Jon, like Jon traveled so much, we were always working on VC either way, and that's kind of a part of our culture now as well, that, you know, people sit all over. Like you met our CMO, who's, you know, quite close to in Portugal, and so that was kind of when we discovered that as well. And I don't know, the contrast was really interesting as well, living in a place where it was 25 people who was living in that valley that we did. We rented a house, and then they had this local airport, so within 30 hours I could be in Shanghai and work on a new development, and then 30 hours later I could sit there and just watch, you know, some of the most magnificent mountains that you have in Norway. So there you had like the skyline of the, you know, the tall buildings in Shanghai, and then a bit later you were sitting in your living room and watching just the same tall things, but it was mountains, right? Cool. So that was those years, very flexible, and, you know, what we needed was laptops and a really good internet connection, and that's how we run the company when it was only 3 people. But when we started to wanting to, that was for 6-7 months, and then we wanted to start to build more, and then, you know, we needed to get an office in Oslo. And start to recruit people to build the different departments, and that has been, I don't know, one of my main jobs for the last 10 years actually.
Okay, well, it has been sort of scaling it up, and
well, in the beginning I was doing all the product development, and, you know, all the trips to our factories and that kind of stuff, and basically the typical, I don't know, founder CEO role, where you work on many different stuff, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and many others as well. But no, I call this first 10 years of DB was kind of the stage 0 or 1, and from 0 to 1, and that was to build a team basically. And for me, it was working on all these different things to get the company up and standing. And I did that for until 2016, 2017. So like for, I would say 5 years, 4 or 5 years, I was working, you know, I had up to 10 roles at one point, where I was doing 10 different tasks in the company. And of course that wasn't sustainable. So in 2017, I burned out like totally. Just become a father at the same time with a baby that had milk allergy, which we didn't know. So we were woken up like, I don't know, 10 to 20 times every night. And then also working under extreme pressure in a work situation where you basically were doing so many roles at once, because even though the company is small, the complexity is, you know, even though it's not that advanced, you have the same challenges as the bigger companies, because you need to deliver, you know, everything from price list to, all the logistics need to work, and you need to send out the goods, you need to have customer service and all this different stuff, right? And at that time we were trying to bootstrap this company, and we didn't take big external investors or do stuff like that. It was us. So when coming back,
how come you didn't take investment? Did you think about that, or?
now, like that's, I don't know what's right or wrong. We took some investment, but that was only smart capital to get people into the board and help us with everything that we didn't know, because we knew we didn't know. Like, we were students, fast learners, but still didn't have experience. So we needed to find someone with experience, and our network was quite limited as well. So we needed to find someone who could help us with, ensuring that this could start off. So we had a board of directors that, got to invest some in the company, but that was more smart capital, I would say, not really to fuel the business and hire people. I find it extremely hard to know what's right and wrong. I don't know. Maybe this could have been, already much, much bigger than what it is today. Maybe it would have failed if we got money. I frankly don't know. I think there's many ways to roam. But the reason back then was that, also then we must remember, like it has happened a lot in the Norwegian scene when it comes to startups as well. It was very few startups at that time. It was a very immature venture market as well. Not a lot of smart capital and models. That was quite outdated, I would say. So you didn't have this ecosystem that you have today in terms of scaling a business. And this is only 10 years ago. So it's, especially in the Scandinavian startup scene, it has been a huge development over the last 5 years, I would say. So we were kind of the first wave of these kinds of companies. So I don't know, it was that way.
Yeah,
I think that's the best.
Almost like setting the path for it, right, over there. Because if it wasn't if it wasn't that sort of mature, like as you were saying, it's kind of like you're sort of working it out, and
it's just a big difference from what it is today. And I don't know what's the right answer, to be quite honest. I don't think there's a right answer. I think both can work. But basically what we did, and was when I came back, I started to build the management team, and that was together with the CCO, and first got in the CCO and then started to build the management team together. So that has been my last, actually, since 2017. That work, I had my last ExCom member in January of 2020. So then I was like, okay, the final piece, which I always knew I wanted, was an experienced CEO. So that was supposed to be my next move then, but then COVID hit, right? So then it was all hands on deck and ensuring that we managed to maneuver that situation in a good way. And I'm extremely proud of the team that we managed to actually get through that uncertainty and headwinds in a very good way, even landing on our budgets those years, which to me is, it was like I said in the beginning, when you do team sports and you're in this this zone of flying. Flytzone is a Norwegian word. Like, when you're in this zone, and that's the team was working so brilliantly through that situation and managed to basically manage COVID. So that took a couple of years to ensure that we were then through that storm, and then the last piece of the puzzle of DB 1.0, as I call it, was actually exactly 1 year ago, right now, where I got in the CEO, which is called Eric Pascal, who used to be the CEO of Lacoste, the big tennis crocodile brand, and also he was the CEO of Black Horse Ski. So he's seen both big and small companies, so perfect fit for us.
Nice.
And then we can move into kind of the scaling phase, which has been my goal for quite a few years. But you need to have, it's like I said in the beginning, it's all about the team, right? And you need to have the right players in place in order to take on complexity and more weight. And it's so cool to see this company now that we have that, and we have a brilliant management team. We have a brilliant team in total who's working all different departments. And there's just so many talented people on all roles in this company. So every time I talk to someone here, I learn something new, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, and you're now, like, what is it? It's up to like 70 people or something.
Yeah, well, it depends a bit how you count, because as kind of a modern company, we do have people working a bit from all over the place. So we have around 50 employees who is in kind of the core team of the company, and then we have people are quite associated, who work a lot with us, but are not fully employed by us. But I would say 50 people is what we are right now, and still growing quite fast in number of employees, for sure.
Nice. And how was it? So like after like COVID, and then I guess that the boom of travel returning, and how's that been? So I guess like the last 12 months, have you kind of seen like demand
Yeah,
and
well,
that sort of
yeah,
skyrocketing, but
yeah.
then
Well, I
issues
would say
getting
like,
like materials and things, and think like the complexities of
yeah,
that, right?
yeah. The last year was actually worse than COVID, to be quite honest, because during COVID it was, you know, of course people got anxious and didn't spend as much. So the demand is going down in general. Like that was the thing. But I mean, demand, you can always work smart ways. You find new ways to work through that, and you can always adapt. And that has been our strategy the entire time, to be a very dynamic company that can move. So if we see an opportunity, then we can manage to move our company to that because we're quite agile. So we managed to get through COVID in a very nice way. However, in 2022 it was worse because then it was the supply who was the problem, right? Or 2021. So then our factory, or we had several factories, but the one that we work closely with, they were down for 4 months. And when you have a 4 month shutdown in a factory, that has consequences that's much more on 4 months on the other side. So then actually we were doing well, but when you don't have anything to sell, then you need to start to improvise on new developments and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
what we had a very plan that we believe in keeping people at work, and just continue to evolve the company and use those opportunities to look into new business opportunities, and that's what we did as well. And there was a lot of the development project that we did during this time who kind of stacked up because of the logistics sides, and we just knew that at some point it will of course start to come out, and that's what we're seeing right now. So yeah, so it's a very fun process now, when still there's headwinds in kind of the macro perspective, but it's not as uncertain as it was before, I would say. And for us, it's easier to maneuver now than what it was. And also our philosophy has always been people and team and the culture here. And also, if you work well on that and have an agile way of agile mindset, then you will be able to maneuver through different storms in a very, very smart way. So I often compare us with like a fast speedboat towards a tanker. Like those need several kilometers to just break down or change their course, right? However, if you're kind of smart and agile, then you can be a bit more flexible, and that's what I think we managed to do here. And that's part of being a journey brand as well. I mean, this entire experiment is a journey, so we need to be able to follow the different paths that's open up.
Yeah. And what are you focusing on now? What's kind of the main driver?
Yeah, well, I think right now, like, we actually this kickoff we had this summer, we went back to Hodevika where it all started. So then we brought the full team down there, which is the most remote place you can go. It's there lives almost no one there. We had to book all the houses that you can book in order to fit everyone in the valley, and catering food and everything was just super hard, but it was such a nice experience, because then we were back there almost 10 years after it started, and the company's 10 years now. And it was really nice to be able to say that we managed to build 1.0. Like the fundament is here now. The brand, it's grown up, it's gone through puberty, it know who it is, and we have the fundament of the entire organization in place. Like the people working here now are insanely good at what they do, and now we're ready to take on the next stage, which is scaling, and also to do that together then with an experienced CEO in place as well. It's just really, really fun to be part of that trip. So we're definitely into that part of the journey now, which is the scaling part. And then big focus on the US, Germany, UK, France, and also of course keeping our stronghold in Scandinavia. But international expansion is definitely what we're into right now, and it feels really good. The brand and the organization is ready for it. So it's a really fun journey. And also we have the revenue and cash flow and liquidity to also support it. So which is super fun.
Is it sort of focusing on the product first, or is it sort of like looking at kind of different regions, or?
Yeah, no, like we are a product company. That's for sure. We are a product and community company, and that's what this was built on. It's a passion for the communities. I mean, it's our passion for skiing, for surfing, for snowboarding, for journeys in general, to experience, go out and be curious, and just evolve as a person. So for us, we are a product and community company, meaning that, we always put the product first. We always, our product development cycles are long. That's because we spend a lot of time on it. And also our connections to the communities are, they're real. Like, we're part of these communities. It's not like a bought paper or market research that we have in. We're sitting in this office together with the products, and also on the marketing side, of course, and in the entire company. So for us, it's using that insight and understanding that we have, and then build better products for the use that we know they will be used for, and enable those journeys. So I would definitely say that we are a product and community brand, and that will always be the first thing that we focus on, because I mean, you can always build a company on I think a bad product for maybe a couple of years, but after that, it's never going to last. It's the product, it's the service that you deliver. It's, that's your most important asset, and that's what we focus the most on, and that has been our entire focus since the beginning. I mean, I'm an industrial designer, together with an engineering, entrepreneurial background, and I think those kind of two things have always been in the core of the company, and will always be in the core of the company.
And then with your focus, it's always going to be on like innovation and like improving the products, right?
Yeah, well,
just stepping up as things change. And
yeah, no, I'm super lucky. I get to work with some brilliant people, and like my Tuesdays as an example, then I get to sit with the D&D team for half a day, and then we go through samples, to go through product ideas and stuff like that, and I can both, give my inputs and also observe their work, which is amazing. And so I work on product and business development, company evolution in general. But for me personally, it's the learning and, being able to join something that is growing and be part of a team that is working together in the evolution of our community and our internal culture and all this kind of stuff. That's what drives me. And also like my passion for these sports and these communities, just being involved in this is that's what got me into this thing in the first place. Either if it's the surfing community or the snowboarding community, or the other sports that we are into, it's just a part of our personalities and my personality.
And do you see any of these sports, like, are some kind of growing more than others, like after COVID, and has there kind of been demand, say, in some and maybe drop off in others, or is it just they're all outdoors, right? And it's kind of
well, I kind of see everyone as creative expression, to be quite honest. Like, I see snowboarders who surf, who skate, who bikes. Like, it's more like a personality thing than you are in this bucket or this bucket. So I just see, maybe that's because we're growing, but we see more traction in the creative community in general, either if that's sports or photography and stuff like that, which is really cool, because that's what we're about. But that's probably around our position as well. But we really feel a growth and traction in all our different categories, which is cool. But again, I think it is about what the brand stands for, and also that the products actually solve real problems, because that was our marketing strategy in the beginning when we made the ski bag together with Jon. Was like, we can't afford to pay anyone. Like, so the only reason we want to make your life easier, like, I mean, if we manage to make your travels better and make it easier for you to do those things you love, then we solve the problem from you, and you will most likely want to choose our products. And that has been the kind of the marketing and brand strategy and the company strategy.
Yeah, awesome, cool. And Truls, what's the best way if people want to follow what you guys are up to, or if they want to reach out to you, how could they do that?
I think Instagram is kind of our main profile, where we put up a lot of our work and collabs and stuff we're up to. Also, of course, I try to use LinkedIn quite a bit and put some posts up there and reflections about building business and culture, which is, for me, as I said in the beginning, like I believe businesses are built by people and the culture that they make internally, and that leads to whatever result you build on those two fundamentals. So I would say, follow the company on Instagram. That's where you get our campaigns and stuff. And if you want to see a bit more behind the scenes stuff, then you follow us on LinkedIn, and you can also follow me on LinkedIn there as well. And I do have an Instagram profile, even though I'm maybe more an observer than super active there. I'm more active on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, Tris, thanks so much for coming on the show. Like, really appreciate your time. Super interesting to see like that like the journey from the last like kind of 10 years and where it's going to be going. And yeah, look, like gonna be looking forward to seeing what's coming up next. And yeah, keep up the awesome work.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. So thank you for having me on your show, Ollie.
Thanks, Ed.
Yeah. Bye bye.